Good evening, SRA Nation, and welcome to Season 12.
Today is going to be a new challenge, aside from being sand for. We're racing on the surface of the sun, apparently.
Heading down towards the main start line.
Maximizing that track just behind. That's exactly what we were talking about, that one corner. So critical to your lap time. You have to send it. Misses the apex curving there by a little bit.
Everybody's now bunched up, and you do not want that.
Rewind now at the end of Sector 1 in the spot you really don't want to, but the fight's not over.
Still there on the inside, and the McLaren's still not going to give the place up.
And we're off and away for SRA.
We are in Season 13. You are watching Division 4 race in Japan at Suzuka. Tough, challenging track, loved by some, hated by a lot. Should be some good racing. Excited to be back, excited for a new season. Division 4 seeing a lot of old faces and a handful of new ones. Some promoted from last season up to D3 and all the way up to D2. We got some D5 drivers coming down into here. But also we have some a lot of faces you're going to remember from last season. Hopefully we can get you some good racing. My name is Ryan Van Epps. I'll be your commentator tonight. And with me in the booth is a new host and new commentator, Big Daddy. How you doing tonight?
Doing awesome, Ryan. Happy to be here. Ready for a new season of racing and ready to see what all of our folks and friends here in D4 can cook up for us tonight.
Yeah, it's been a pretty short off season from from Season 12. We're still excited to get back racing. I know everybody's always looking forward to that first race. The hype's big. The field is always big. Everyone shows up to this race, so always the most fun race to watch for me personally is that round one of a new season.
Absolutely, and Suzuka is a track as well that just in general draws a big crowd. So definitely going to be a good turnout here tonight. Fully expect to see that. And hopefully won't see too many disastrous antics on track. Keep everything clean, keep everything fresh, and we've got full 8-race season ahead. We do have one drop race here in SRA, but you certainly don't want to burn that early on in the season.
That's correct. You want to save that for when you have, a big mishap or something. You don't want to have to worry about keeping the rest of your races clean. You want to be able to have as many clean races as you can and have that drop race, in your pocket to use later on. Great schedule this season. Obviously today we're starting off with Suzuka, followed by a fan favorite by almost everybody, Watkins Glen. After Watkins Glen, I do believe we have a little bit of a break. And after that break, we're coming back to Mazzano, where we just held the 6-hour endurance series race for SRA, round 3 of that. Followed by that, we have the Nürburgring, and it is forecasted for rain. A love track, a tough track, but when you throw rain into that mix, it's what they say is the great equalizer, and usually can bring the point standings a little bit closer if there's a big gap. Followed by wet Nürburgring, we're going into Zolder. Followed by Zolder, we have Mount Panorama, or some know it as Bathurst. That is probably the race I'm most excited to watch. It's always carnage there. And if it's not carnage, it's just intense battling, because you're not battling just the cars on the track, you're battling the track itself. Followed by Mount Panorama, we have Alton Park, which we haven't seen in quite a long time at SRA. Tough track to pass on, great track for hot lapping. It's one of those British tracks that are just bumpy and small, tight, very fast, should be for some intense racing. And then to close out Season 13, we are racing at Valencia at night. A lot of people were looking forward to Valencia. Not sure if they were looking forward to it at night, but they're going to have to race it at night. Looks like we have a really good schedule lined up.
Absolutely. Absolute bangers of tracks for all 8 weeks. Out of curiosity, Ryan, which one of these are you... I know you said you're probably most looking forward to Mount Panorama. Which of these is your most favorite to race?
It's easy. Watkins Glen, without a doubt. That's my home track. I am from New York, and I live only 30 minutes from Watkins Glen, so I grew up there. It's just also such a great track to race on. I don't know many people who dislike it. The flow of it, the size of it, just makes for such good racing. But with that being said, even though I love Watkins Glen so much, it's just so hard for me to say I'm so excited to race Mount Panorama. It's just such an intense track. It brings out a whole different level of racing. Like I said, you're fighting the elements in the track itself rather than just the cars, and it's not just are you faster than the guy in front of you, it's are you able to keep your car together and keep it out of the walls. You know, you're racing what they like to call Mr. Barriere.
Yeah, Mount Panorama is definitely a fan favorite here in SRA. I think for me, it's a tough call. Watkins Glen is, of course, like you said, it's a perennial favorite, and it's a fantastic track. There's a ton of elevation change. It has an amazing flow to it. But it might get edged out by Suzuka for me, and I think they might both get edged out by Valencia. I know that one can be a little bit of a polarizing opinion. But Valencia,
That is.
Valencia for me, as much as I love Pano as well, Pano does promote good racing, but Valencia has a really nice flow to it. And I always end up finding some really, really spectacular battles on Valencia for myself. So for me, it's one that's got a near and dear spot to my heart. And honestly, Olton Park is a little bit of an oddball choice, but I really love it. Although I think I probably like hot lapping it more than I enjoy racing it.
That's how I feel about all the British tracks. Love hot lapping them. Not huge on racing them, but I do love Olton Park. It's just, they're so bumpy and old school and rough. I can't hate on them. While we wait for the cars to get out on track and start their qualifying, we can kind of go over, we don't have any standings for you guys today, but we can go over the teams and who's paired up with who if you want to throw that on the screen.
Certainly.
You guys will notice, anybody who's here from past broadcasts, you'll definitely notice a lot of familiar names from D4 last year. Hold on one second as I pull mine up here. We have I do know my old teammate from D5 is down here racing with Kyle Miller. Steven Sarver, my old teammate, paired up in the Mustang with Kyle Miller here. Another D5 driver, Alexander Giordano, is paired up with Landon P in the surprisingly Honda NSX, a bold choice from all the cars you could choose from. They decided to go with the oddball. Tough car to make fast, but if you can, you get a lot of eyes on you because you're just out here with a different vehicle. Caleb Tenney and Spencer Taft. Caleb Tenney is new to the division. Spencer Taft is a veteran in D4 running the Lamborghini. We have Matt Anderson and Brett Swift, two names you can remember from last season in the Porsche 992. Hassam Rimzik and Steven Dutton, who came in towards the end of the season last year when they got bumped up from D5 running the McLaren 720. Sean Williams and Scott Johnston, two more D4 drivers from last season, also in the McLaren. Another team from last season in D4, Justin Moffitt and Matt Melanson, running the Bentley last season, switched to the Ford for this season. Henry Ramirez and Jake Battle in the Ford Mustang as well. Jacob Busterick and Vincent Nicolette in the Porsche 992. Ian Demler and Roger Rodriguez, D4 drivers from last season in the McLaren again. Kevin Johnston and Rob Moorhead running the Mercedes AMG. I believe they're the only Mercedes in the field tonight. Thomas Greer and Stephanie Fisher running the Porsche 992. Thomas coming from the Mustang last season in D4. Going to the Porsche is going to be a interesting jump for him. Stefan Buckley and Rafael Cabrera also running the Lexus this season. Matt Mattisey and Darren Robichaud back again in the Bentley. The only Bentley this season, unlike the 7 we had last season. Aiden Burke and Travis Tatro back in the McLaren. Kyle Cumber and Roberto Pena, 2 new drivers for D4 running the McLaren. JP Johnston, Justin Griswold back again in the Ford Mustang. Mert Mertzen and Justin Rosenthal running a Ferrari this season, unlike, I believe, in the McLaren last season. The only Audi on the grid today, John Ansom and Eric Rutterham. And Ryan Garrity and Robert Lacey in the Ferrari 296. From last season, from what I remember, there's a lot of fast guys who stuck around in this division that were all competitive last season, who were kind of struggling because your competitors were just so much faster. So I believe we're looking at a really competitive season of some close driving if everyone drives the same way they did last season.
I certainly do think you're right. I remember a few of these names popping up in Division 4 last season. Probably the most notable of which for me would be Thomas Greer in the number 664 Porsche, teamed up with Stephanie Fisher this season. He's a fellow conglomerate member over in OBDA, and for those of you who are just tuning in, conglomerates are sort of basically groups of teams. Think something like Hendrick Motorsport, where there's a ton of different teams all racing essentially under one flag. And it's just more or less just kind of a way for us to get together and compete a little bit more as a group.
I love what Coach Jeffries is doing with the conglomerates and making a side championship. So you have your driver championship for gold, your driver championship for silver, and then you have your team championship, which is the teams that are on the screen right now. In the background, Coach Jeffries, who does a lot of stuff for SRA, started a conglomerate cup. So he, on his own, starts adding up all the points from each conglomerate placement in each race, and everybody races for a conglomerate cup. Last season, OBDA pretty much took a sweeping win and dominated the entire series. So they're looking to come back. I think all the OBDA drivers are looking to come back and make another dominating performance. I think a close second was Champion Motorsports, so they're probably looking to see if they can stack some drivers up in the top of the field to see if they can take that driver conglomerate cup away from OBDA this season.
They might, but they've got their work cut out for them. We've got some strong drivers in OBDA. I'm myself a member. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be out on track this season, so I won't be contributing to the points totals there in the metrics.
It looks like the silver drivers are making their way out onto track to start their first round of qualifying here.
We'll go ahead and check in with these first few drivers. Looks like Ian Demler was the first one to make it out here in the 720. Ian is one I've raced against a couple of times. I want to say it was back in season 10. Good driver, generally keeps it relatively clean. Obviously, with sim racing, there's always a little bit of bumping and rubbing. Little bits of contact can happen here and there, but he does a good job of keeping it clean overall.
Yeah, you're going to have the bumping and rubbing as long as they can, like you said, keep the driving clean for the most part. For anybody who's new to sim racing, racing in general, SRA, they're all out right now. They're coming around for their first lap. This is not a timed lap. This is kind of the lap to build your gaps, get your tires warm. Once they cross the finish line, the start-finish, that will start their first timed lap. Most of the time what you'll see is them put in what they call a banker lap. It is just, get a lap in. Make sure you have a time on the board. Don't push too hard. Just make sure you get a time on the board because your tires are still not fully warm. By lap 2 and 3 is when you're going to really start to see them push for those faster times.
Yeah, with that said, though, Suzuka does a good job of letting you warm up your tires around that first out lap. So you will see some, granted not top of the leaderboard times here on this first flyer, but it's not going to be as far off the pace as it will as we get later in the season at some of the smaller tracks like Olton Park.
Yeah, with the 2-minute-ish lap time around here, which I think D4 is running about a 2-minute lap time, 2 minutes, 1 second.
Yep.
You have 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to get your qualifying in per division or per, classification gold and silver. That 2-minute lap time makes for not a lot of time compared to some tracks to get laps in. So you're limited in the amount of laps you're going to be able to get in. So you want to get that banker lap in, and then you really want to start kind of pushing pretty quickly because you don't have many laps like you do at other tracks to get your good quality times in.
Yeah, you should get about 4 laps here, which is definitely going to put some pressure on, especially with first race jitters and just nerves from season start. Can make it tough to qualify well. So like you said, getting that banker lap in is really, really crucial. As we see Stefan Buckley come around, looks like he's starting his first flyer. And the Lexus getting the rear end a little bit loose. It's a very fun car to drive around here, but it is a little tough on tires. Though that is a little bit less of an issue here in SRA. With the GT3 Team Series, we do have 1 mandatory pit stop during the 60-minute race. You will have to take tires, so you can burn them up here in quali and then burn them up again in the race without too much worry, as long as you can make them last about halfway. Let's see who all we can check in with. Got
I believe the first time on the board, or the provisional pole sitting right now, is, I believe that is Roger Rodriguez with a 2-minute 1.812. So for a banker lap, that's a pretty good time. That's going to be, as of right now, that's the time to beat. I'm sure some people will get above that, but that is a very solid first run.
Yeah, I'm guessing we'll see some at least mid 2 minutes. That's about what we saw towards the top of the hot lap leaderboard for Division 4, was about a 2-minute 0.5. I think right on the nose, maybe a 0.502. And then it filtered on down. I think the slowest time that I saw on the leaderboard was around a 2:02.8, 2:02.9, right in that range. So a little bit of a spread here at Suzuka. But certainly...
Alexander Giordano just put in a 2:01.5 to take provisional pole for now.
Yeah, so we're already starting to see those times come down just a little bit. And that is a really solid banker lap right there for that 2:01.5. Got Robert Lacey sitting with another 2:01.8. Raf Cab, one of my OBDA boys, currently sitting provisional P4 with a 2:01.9. Again, not a bad banker lap.
Not at all.
Especially with the track conditions here. We are optimum grip level according to ACC, but we are a little warm. 24 and 32 centigrade on track right now. So certainly that'll play a little bit into tire degradation. And what are we looking at for the race? It's about 27:34, right around there.
I believe that's what they're going to be starting at. I mean, top 5 being in, or now top 6 all being in the 2:01s. With still a little under 4 minutes left in their qualifying, they're pushing it. Henry Ramirez put in a 2:01.1 to give himself a provisional pole. 2:01.1. So he's pushing that flat 2-minute mark.
Yeah, and that's his first flyer too, so I think we'll start seeing that come down, though he doesn't have a ton more time. He'll get this lap and probably one more, would be my guess. I will be curious to see. Looked like the Mustangs were doing okay in the racing last night. Be curious to see how they do here. D4 with a few more McLarens, I think, than some of the other divisions, so it'll be interesting to see how those play out. The McLaren can be a little tough to get out of the hairpin here at Suzuka. And Giordano comes in with a 2:01 flat in the NSX. Man, that is a fun car. I haven't driven it here at Suzuka in a little while, but I know it's a beast to handle through 130R, if I remember right. Back end really likes to rotate around a lot more than is comfortable.
Yeah, there's few cars. There are a few of them, but there are a few cars that like to hold on around 130R. That is a tough corner to take. It's a tough corner to take if you're trying to make time, because you are coming through that corner flying, and try not to lose the rear end, try not to go outside track limits, track limits are a big thing at this track here. I know in my race there was a lot of people fighting drive-throughs the whole time. So that's going to be another challenge for these drivers today, as I believe Alexander Giordano just took back provisional pole. Oh, nope, never mind. Henry
Just lost it.
Ramirez.
Ramirez just
Henry
pulled it back.
Ramirez now just took it. There's our first sub 201 right there for Henry Ramirez.
Let's see. We're going to look at a few people move up. Ian Demler coming in with the 201 flat. Provisional P3 right now. And we're going to be looking at Raf Cab and Lacey both coming across the line here in short
Up
order.
3/10, yeah. Up 3/10 on both their times. That'll give them a pretty nice jump up in spots. Raf Cab sitting in P9 right now. That jumps him up to P3. Got him nice jump there. Ian Demler got moved up from P9 to P4. It's like Kyle Cumber is also on a up 3/10 on his lap as he's coming into the hairpin here.
Yep, and this is that hairpin that is a little bit of a tricky one in the McLaren. McLaren gearing's a little bit odd, so car doesn't seem to really love first gear, but that corner's just a little too slow for second to really make a ton of sense. Make it work, but it's a tricky one. Looks like he's lost a little bit of time gain. Currently sitting about a 2/10 improvement, pushing up a little.
That corner we just watched, Spoon, is another one of those tough corners that drivers have a lot of trouble with.
It is.
You could really make or break your race there. A lot of time lost, or if you're good at that corner, you can get a lot of time gain on the other people who are struggling with that corner. So that's gonna be a big game changer for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, Spoon's a tough one because it has that weird kind of crest towards the middle of it. So the front end wants to wash out, and then the rear end wants to swing around a little bit more.
Yep. As you're trying to make a double turn.
Yeah. And then the track starts falling away from you, and if that rear end isn't hooked up, it gets scary.
Kyle jumps up to P2 with that lap right there, as that was his last lap he was able to put in. Got himself up into a provisional P2. Silver drivers provisional pole is going to be Henry Ramirez. P2 is going to be Kyle Cumber and Ian Demler in P3 as the gold drivers start to take out onto the track.
Let's see who we can track down.
We do have Travis Tatro still on the track for silver drivers, currently 2/10 up on his time as he comes through 130R, coming into the chicane here of Casio. See if he can improve his time just a little bit. It should get him at least 1 or 2 spots if he can hold it together.
It looks like he's losing
As he
time out of the exit there.
lost times to the chicane, yep. That chicane's tough for the McLaren. The McLaren is known to not like curbs very much, and you really need to eat a whole lot of that curb if you want to make up time there. So
yeah, the McLaren, I think the strategy, and I could be wrong on this. I'm sure the McLaren experts in chat can fact check me on this and correct me when I get this wrong. The McLaren, I think the strategy there for the Casio Triangle is to cut that entry chicane, or the entry curb on the right, and then just barely kiss the exit at the inside curb.
that's how I used to take it, because I came from the McLaren. I'm a McLaren fanatic. That's all I've ever ran until the GTR this season. That's how I would take that chicane. Whereas the GTR this season, you can eat the whole curb. You can just run it over like it's not even there. No GTRs on track today, but a few other cars that are good at curbs. Lexus, we got a couple Lexuses out there.
A couple of Bentleys. That is
the
my
Bentleys
baby right
yep.
there. Bentley
As
car is best car.
The gold drivers are now on their first timed lap. I believe that's Caleb Tenney out front. No, it's... Who's up front? Matt Anderson is going to be your lead driver here, I believe.
I will say I'm a little surprised to not see any... Yeah, we don't have a single Porsche inside the current top 10 from the silver qualifying. I'm a little surprised to see that. The Porsche Maybe things have changed, but for me, the Porsche was always a strong car here in my experience.
I believe they, from what I remember yesterday, the Porsches were having trouble with getting outrun on the straightaway, on all the straightaways. Because you get a few straightaways here, and they were having troubles outrunning or getting outran on the straightaway. If I look at the board here, the Porsches with a negative 5 kg BOP, so they definitely are trying to give them a little bit of push down the straightaways. Ford Mustang, knowing its power that it has and its speed down the straightaway, is getting a plus 15 kg. And if we look at the Bentley, it's getting a minus 20 kg.
Yeah, the Bentley, the BOP for the Bentley is always tough to work out, I think, on the event organizer part. Because it's
very hard.
It's one, I remember I raced that in Season 10, and especially when we get to some of the tracks where you have a lot of low-speed corners and good, at least reasonably okay-sized straights, like Red Bull Ring, I would let someone come up alongside me and put 3 lengths on them by the time we're at the next corner.
Yes, that's the tough part about the Bentley, is it's fast down the straightaways, very fast.
Yeah,
but it doesn't handle.
Well, it does really well in low-speed corners, but I just don't think it has as much aero grip as some of the other cars. I think you sacrifice on some of the higher speed stuff, and even some of the mid-speed stuff, but it generates a ton of mechanical grip. So any of the low-speed stuff, it's a beast. A beast and a half, even.
A beast and a half. Kevin Johnston takes a P2 spot with his sub 2 minute or 2:01 time at a 2 minute .950. That'll be your first top 3 in the Gold Drivers, where Matt Anderson and Steven Music are sitting P7 and P8. So we'll see, those are some banker laps. We'll see some improvements on all those times.
Yeah, and keep in mind, these are banker laps, but they're still 2:01 flats, which is towards the top end of what we were seeing from the Silvers. And there are quite a few drivers with very similar times in this. I'm looking 2:01, 007, 037, 082, 057, 075. So P4 through 8 are all within a tenth of each other. And then Johnston, like you said, coming in with the sub 2 flat, looks like a banker lap.
Yeah, he's up 2 tenths.
Yeah,
in the AMG of all cars.
Yeah, the car that doesn't do 130R.
Right. We were having issues in the 6 hours of Misano last week. All the Mercedes, there's another high-speed right-hander, kind of like 130R at Misano, and every Mercedes was having the same problem as they do at 130R, losing the rear end. So the fact that he's able to keep this car together, or we're about to watch him come into 130R here, is and he keeps that thing planted through there. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. The Mercedes is one, I've tried driving it here, and in general, it's a car that I just can't really bring myself to vibe with. It seems like it almost likes to rev out a little bit lower. Like when you try to rev it out, the suspension just seems to kind of bind up and quit working. One that I've struggled with quite a lot.
He's seems to be the only Mercedes on track, even to the point of not having a teammate today, it seems like.
It's interesting to see. Absolutely.
He's supposed to be teamed up with Rob Moorhead, who I believe is not here today. So as of right now, he is currently solo on the track.
No, he is not. Rob Moorhead currently sitting P18.
You are correct. Yeah, I did not even see his name on the list.
With a 2:01.3 as his best lap. Moffat in the Mustang coming in with a 2:06. Currently a couple of tenths down.
Anybody in chat, make sure you're putting in your driver you're looking to win, and whether you have that driver in a fantasy team, it's somebody you're personally watching, or a teammate of yours in a different classification. You know, let's hear the names in the chat of who you're looking forward to winning tonight.
We'll hop on board with Hesham Rimsk right here. See, he comes across the line. He's looking at about a 2/10 improvement, which should bump him up a couple of spots. Up to P27 from, I believe, about 34th.
And I know he has a lot more pace in him. I've raced with him quite a lot, and he has improved drastically over the last 2 seasons. So we'll see him move up from that P28 spot. I'm sure he has a lot more pace left in him.
Yeah, it'll just be a matter of whether or not he can access it tonight. Which, we all have our off days, that's for sure. Looks like he's
Justin
got...
Moffitt sitting provisional pole right now with a 2-minute 0.6. Rimzik still 10th up on his time here.
Looks like this will be the last lap for most of these guys.
Yep.
You wind down to the last few moments of qualifying.
If Kevin Johnston can stay on this pace right now, this will be a pole lap for him. He just needs to stay on this pace he's got going for himself right now as he comes to the hairpin here.
I think an AMG on pole is probably not something any of us would have been counting on.
No, absolutely
coming
not.
into this. If only because there's only 2 of them out on track right now, but his teammate Moorhead's currently sitting P3 as well. So they have clearly figured out this car.
Yeah, whether they just know how to drive it or they have spent the time to dial in a setup for this track, they have something figured out, that's for sure. It seems Kevin has lost a little bit of time, down to 2/10 up, so that won't be a pole position, but that will jump him up a few spots as he's losing a little bit more time now. If he can try to clean it up through this chicane here, coming around the last turn.
Looks like he might be about a dead heat
Unfortunately.
with this previous time. Moorhead is coming in not too far behind him. Currently about a 10th up. See if we can hit him with the commentator's curse.
Comes around the last turn. Not a full 10th up on his time. It might give him one more spot here.
Doesn't look like it'll be quite enough. Nope. 2 minutes.
Just short.
777. So he will still be on the second row with an Audi, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, this is a... if you were to ask me coming into this race what the top 5 was going to look like, 2 Mustangs, P1 and P2, a Mercedes, an Audi, and then a Mercedes is not what I would have guessed.
Absolutely not.
We have 1 Porsche in the top 10. Let's see.
I think now might be.
If you were to,
I think now might be a good time to have a word from our sponsors. What do you think?
Yes, sounds good to me.
A huge thank you to our SRA sponsors and title sponsors for supporting us here at SRA, as well as support from Documise, a modern business solution for product management. Go to documise.com to learn more today. And support from Retro Saga, a North American-based gaming company that provides accessories for your favourite classic systems, including Nintendo, Sega, PlayStation, and much more. Enhance your retro gaming experience today at retrosaga.ca. And a big thank you to our affiliates, Track Racer. Experience redefined gaming with Track Racer's high-quality sim rigs and accessories. Use code SRATE at checkout to support us. Armamentario, a toolbox for ACC that will enhance your chance to win. Enjoy a fully customizable and enhanced HUD to change the way you experience ACC. AT3D Sim Shop. Upgrade your sim racing experience today with premium 3D printed accessories featuring precision crafted magnetic shifters, sleek cable management solutions, versatile stream deck mounts, and immersive dashboard displays. Their innovative designs enhance performance and style, elevate every lap with top tier quality and craftsmanship at at3d.net. Go Setups, premium esports setups for everybody. Use our affiliate link on our Discord and take your drive to the next level. Castle and Cauldron, a home-based crafting business specializing in handmade Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts and Fairy World collectibles. Magic wands, potions, mini dioramas, wall decor, costumery, cosplay and much more. Castle and Cauldron is where crafting meets the magical. Visit facebook.com/Castle Cauldron. And from KP Concepts, your source for custom automotive renderings, graphic design, and printing. We spend countless hours making you look all good for the spectacle. Check out kpconcepts.com for more.
All right, and we are back. We are starting up the formation lap. As the cars start to pull away from grid. P1, we have Moffat, then followed by Ramirez in P2. Both two Mustangs here on the front row of the grid this evening. Followed by Moorhead and Rudderham in the Mercedes AMG and the Audi. It's an interesting car to see. Behind them in the third row, we'll have Johnston, Moorhead's teammate in the AMG, and Sean Williams in the Champion Motorsports McLaren, first McLaren in the grid in P6, followed by Kyle Cumber and Matt Anderson. Then Ian Demler, Francisco Astudillo, Steven Music in the Ferrari 296, Alexander Giordano in the first NSX of the grid tonight, sitting in P12. Ryan Garrity in the 296 in P13. Raf Cab in the Lexus in P14, followed by Ansem in the Audi. Buckley, who is Cab's teammate in the Lexus. Griswold in another Mustang. Got Roger Rodriguez in a Champion Motorsport 720. Looks like he's going to be starting from the pits tonight. Be an interesting strategy call to see exactly what's happening there. Got Tinney in now P18 in the Lamborghini. Rosenthal in the 296. Brett Swift, guy who's been around for quite a while. I remember racing against him back in my first season here in Season 6 in SRA. Got Tatro in the McLaren. Jake Battle in the Mustang, P23. Aiden Burt in the McLaren. Landon P in another Honda NSX, P24. Robert Lacey in the 296. Madison, first of the two Bentleys. We've got JP Johnston and Matt Mellinson in the Ford Mustangs, P27-28. Hesham Rimsk in the McLaren, P29. Mert Mertson rounding out the top 30 in the Ferrari 296. Steven Sarver in the Mustang in P31. We've got Scott Johnston in the McLaren, Steve Foster in the 296. Thomas Greer in the Porsche. Spencer Taft in the very red with a little bit of green Lamborghini. Kyle Miller, the Ford Mustang, Stephanie Fisher, and Jacob Busterski in the Porsche 992. And then Robichaud also starting from the pit lane in the Bentley. Curious to see what's going on with those. I don't know if maybe they had some sort of issue and weren't able to hit drive in time.
I would assume some sort of technical issues. If you could update your Discord stream one more time.
Certainly.
As the cars here are starting to go into double file side by side as they come around the last few corners onto the straight.
Got some bright sun going on today.
Yeah, they're going to be racing into the sunset, which is going to cause some issues. I'll let you take the race start, as I can't see the screen just yet. Waiting for those green lights here to kick us off.
And we are green. And it looks like Ramirez is going to get a little bit of a jump on Moffat. As he holds the outside line. And he is going to snatch away the race lead off the start. Watch the cars all filter through. It does look like we have a little bit of contact further back with Burke. See if we can't find a replay of that. Ooh. Looks like he got spun around. Could not see by who, though. Always hate to see that. As the cars come around and everything gets updated.
The seems as if the two Mustangs got away in the beginning, held it together and swapped positions, but are starting to run away with it together.
Ooh. As we see a little bit of a pile up here in the hairpin.
That's almost always an issue here at Suzuka, and when that happens, it just turns into a absolute pile up, parking garage style.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And it's one of those things where you're slowing down so much, but you're trying to keep as much speed as you can. There's no way to really stop in time, and because of how tight that corner is, hard pressed to really avoid anything.
And unfortunately, Alexander Giordano got spun around backwards and had to sit there as the entire field drove around him, so he dropped back, not to dead last because we still have those two drivers who started in the pits, but he lost almost all of his positions, unfortunately.
Moffat sitting right behind Ramirez here. Looks like he's probably half a second off. Currently showing 4/10 on the Delta. I'm sure that'll update. Yep, 5.66. We'll see if he's able to respond and take that lead back. Started on pole, so certainly he wants it. Let's go through.
Seems as if the two Mustangs here of Moffat and Ramirez seem to have found a little bit of a flow to either pull away from P2 and P3 or sorry, P3 and P4, but P3 and P4 are also in a little battle over their own, which is going to slow them up just a little bit, allowing the front pack of the two cars to start to get a little bit of a gap on them. It's one of those situations where early on in a race, almost if you're top five, you don't want to battle too much because you'll let the leaders start to get away from you. You kind of want to settle in, stay clumped together, and then wait for everything to settle out and then start trying to make your moves from there, to try not to let those, you know, if that McLaren fights that Audi for too long, the McLaren of Williams fights Rutherham for too long, they're going to allow P1 and P2 to run away from them. So even if he does get around, he's got a lot of ground to make up. You almost want to work together to try to get up to bring that gap between the two packs a little bit closer and then start making moves.
Yeah, and of course it's so difficult to not fight because you've got an hour. You've got plenty of time, but at the end of the day, as much as you have plenty of time, you really don't have that much. So Correct. If you let these gaps build too much too early, it is a Herculean effort to try and claw them back. It looks like Rutherham may have taken a couple tens back out of Moffat and closed up that gap just a little bit. What I don't know is I've driven the Audi a couple of times, but not here at Suzuka, so I don't know how much of this is Williams is maybe a little bit faster and trying to get around him, or if it's maybe just week one nerves and there's a guy in front of me, I gotta fight him. Yeah,
it's you also, you know, we're all here racing, which means we all have some sort of competitive drive in us, and it's real hard to push that competitive drive down and tell yourself, don't fight, just drive, stay with them. Let's close this gap. It's real hard when you have that guy right in front of you, and you got that pass, and you can see it, to not try to go for it. You know, that competitive drive, just it's really hard to suppress when you want to start working about strategical thinking.
Absolutely, and especially for Williams here, as soon as he can show Rudderham a nose, he's going to taste the blood in the water, and he's going to want it. He's going to want it even more than he already does, and that's the tough part, is they really need to work together, but man.
And I think it's looking like at this point currently, it's hard to tell as we're only 2 laps in, Williams may have a little bit of pace on Rudderham, and if I was Williams right now, I'd be also thinking the same thing of, does Rudderham have the pace to catch back up to P2, or do I need to get around him so I can work on getting back up there myself? So there's
you're right.
For a lot of people who don't race, a lot of people who have never done any of this before, there's a lot more than just racing happening, a lot more than just turning and driving. There's a lot of thoughts, a lot of strategies, a lot of different options of what you need to do the whole time. So there's lots of stuff going on as you're also trying not to cause an incident, and you're trying to stay on pace. There's a lot more to it than just driving.
Absolutely, and I think part of the challenge for Williams is going to be, where can he make the move? Suzuka is...
As Williams comes into contact with Rudderham, spinning him through the chicane. As we were just talking about, you know, that competitive nature and wanting to put on pressure, I think he came into that chicane just a little bit too hot. Wasn't expecting the early braking there from Rudderham.
Yep, and that plays in exactly to what I was about to say. Suzuka is unfortunately a track where you got to keep it clean, but it's a track where it really only rewards bold pass attempts. It's to try and get by in one single move. It just doesn't really happen that often.
As we have contact down the straightaway with Travis Tatro getting spun as he gets in front of a Bentley as he comes back on track.
No.
Oh no! You gotta hold your brakes there. He came into contact. Matt Mattisey just destroying the front end of that Bentley as he T-bones Tatro sitting in the middle of the track.
See if we can catch a replay of it.
Hate to see that. I don't know if he didn't hold his brakes or just drove back on the track trying to get back on, but came at a 90-degree angle.
Oh. Ooh, that hurts.
That is, Tatro had to return to garage off that, and
I can imagine. I'm a little surprised Mattisey isn't having to as well.
I'm sure Mattisey you're going to see him drop back quite a bit as he goes here, because he's not going to be able to turn that car, and he's pretty much limping that thing back to the pits right now.
Yeah, the Bentley's a tank. It can take a lot of abuse, but that was a direct 90-degree hit.
Full speed, full tilt, as he loses 3 spots coming into the, he's just holding on, probably trying to limp that thing back to the pits, unfortunately. Early on, you hate to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like his teammate Robichaud in P34 currently is coming up behind him, should take the position from him as well.
And we, Rob Moorhead made the move on Williams at some point to take that P3 spot.
Yep, it was right after the contact with Rudderham. It looked like Williams might have pulled off to the side just a little bit to see if Rudderham could recover quickly.
Gotcha.
In an effort to try and hand position back.
Just give the spot back.
Yeah,
yep.
Good sportsmanship behavior.
Yep. Unfortunately, it seems as if he dropped all the way back to P11. So Rudderham has some work ahead of him. Luckily, didn't take too much damage from that.
Yeah, it was just a little touch, but the Audi doesn't have a ton of aero to help it at speed. So I know it's one where you don't, if you're driving it fast, it runs TC0 and it runs max wing, but that max wing ain't doing much for you. But this all comes back into, you got to make these bold attempts, and it just increases the risk factor so dramatically. I remember back in season 11, this was one of the races I did, and we had an entire side-by-side for about half the track with Evan Kim. Ton of clean racing, but it takes a lot of guts and respect and trust that the other guy is not going to
lots of trust.
Either that the other guy is not going to do something silly, or that ACC isn't just going to netcode you into oblivion.
Yep.
But high risk, high
We got
reward.
P11 through P14. We have ourselves a little bit of a train going on here as they bunch up together and try to fight each other for those positions here and early on.
Yep.
Starting
And
to see these.
looks like Williams might be losing out just a little bit on the straight going into 130R to Moorhead, but he is closing that gap, it seems like, across the rest of the track. Be interesting to see as Moorhead goes a little bit wide through 130R. Have to see if that counts as a track cut, because those are unfortunately very easy to pick up here, and for those gets you a drive through the pits, and not a planned one either.
Not the drive through that you want to be doing. Does not count towards your mandatory pit stop. Seems as if Ramirez here is starting to get himself a nice, comfortable lead on Moffitt, but Moffitt also getting himself a nice little gap on the P3 of Rob Moorhead here. So yep. P1 and P2 sitting comfortable right now, got themselves some clean track. They can run their own races currently. Moffitt is going to want to try to close that gap up on Ramirez as soon as he can before he starts to get away too much, but it's looking like they're going to have some comfortable, clean track to run for a while.
Absolutely, and honestly, even for Moffitt, P2 in first race of the season is certainly not a bad start. Obviously, you want to go for that win, but still 48 minutes left in the race, and 7 more races after this. Plenty of time, and if I look, there's always the chance that this P2 is his drop race.
That's correct. You know, if you can start winning, you know.
Absolutely. So you don't want to throw it away by any means. You always want to have these good finishes in the bank. So as much as if he can push and really close that gap down, that would be one thing. But if he can just cruise and hold Moorhead about 3 seconds back, which it looks like he's been doing, I would, in his position, I would find it a little difficult to really want to try and push and risk ruining my race. The other thing that I don't know with these Mustangs is I was talking to the Yaron brothers. They're driving the 458, or the 488 Ferrari this season, the older Ferrari. They were both telling me that the car was running through its tires pretty quickly, even with the split stints that we have here in the team series, where you do have that mandatory stop. They were only getting a handful of laps out of the tires before they were falling off. I don't know that the Mustangs are going to be that aggressive on it, but I know that car tends to be a little tough on its tires to begin with track conditions like this. So it's a little cooler than I was expecting, 23-27.
As we drive into the sunset here, then the sun goes down, the track is going to do nothing but cool off just a little bit more. So hopefully it seems like one of those races where the first stint's going to be a little rougher on tires than the second stint due to the cooler temperatures as the sun goes down. So it'll be definitely something to keep an eye on with these Mustangs to see how that tire degradation holds up compared to, you know, the McLarens that are usually pretty good on tires, to see if they can hold that gap in front of them.
Yeah, and the 992s, just in my experience, we did a 8-hour enduro here. This goes back a little while. The 992 really wasn't too bad on its tires either here, less so than people seem to be expecting it to be. So I'm wondering if we might see those make a little bit of a resurgence late in the race, as we do have Anderson sitting in P6 right now. Be interesting to see how this all plays out. As hop on board with Johnston right now looking back. We got a little bit of a train going from P12 all the way back to about P16, 17. Really, towards P18 even. It looks like we've got Rosenthal closing up on the back of Landon P's NSX. And I'm keeping an eye on the gap between Moorhead and Williams, currently sitting at about half a second. Not quite close enough to make something happen yet.
It seems as if the Williams and that McLaren closes the gap quite well around the hairpin, leading up into Spoon, through Spoon, and then actually loses it time to Moorhead in that Mercedes around 130R, which is surprising. Usually the McLaren grips around 130R a lot better than that Mercedes does. So Rob Moorhead here has something figured out with that Mercedes to be able to get it to grip up in sections it usually doesn't. So that's
Yeah.
going to be, if it seems as if Williams is going to want to make a move on Rob here, it's probably going to be in the few turns before 130R. That's where he seems to close up the gap quite a bit on him.
So I know the Mercedes has a strong engine, for sure. There's no doubt about that. But I'm wondering if he's not running a little bit lower aero setup and trying to maximize the mechanical grip, because it seems like where he's really making up this time is from spoon up to 130R and then down the start-finish straight. So I'm wondering if he's just basically trying to say, hey, look, I'm going to give this up in the corners. If you want it, you got to take it in the corners. You got to make those bold passes and force those bad, and, well, I won't say bad, but force those risky decisions.
Right.
Because you ain't getting me on the straight.
That was basically my tactic in the GTR last night.
Oh, the GTR is just an absolute monster on the straights.
You can't keep up with it. So he might be having the same mentality that I was having last night here, just exactly like you said. He knows, all right, Williams can close the gap on me here, get a little bit close, but I have this whole straightaway coming into 130R, and then after that I got another long straight on the front to try to build that gap back.
Absolutely.
Because you see here, Williams closes that gap just a little bit on him, gets it right on his bumper again, coming into 130R, just closes it up through spoon on him every time, as Moorhead definitely starts to pull away down that back straight.
Yeah, he looks like he's holding him at about the right distance. You can see it almost looks like I'm on board with the rear wing right now. Ooh. So William gets very close to a little bit of contact there. Ooh. He loses the rear end coming out of the Casio triangle. So that'll definitely work against him, but it looks like even with the slipstream, Moorhead really can't respond to the Mercedes on the straights. Just absolutely no shot at it. And that goes back to kind of what I was talking about earlier with, you know, the Bentley, granted a different car, but that's part of the fun of being able to choose whatever you want. In SRA here, being able to race pretty much any car that's in the GT3 class in the game. And everything's going to have its own different strengths and weaknesses. But then they go in and add the custom BOP, so it helps things that are maybe a little less competitive be a little bit more okay. Granted, sometimes it overshoots, but I think it's a good concept overall for sure. As Williams closes into 2/10.
Definitely tough to get that BOP correct. Just with, especially on a track like this, with multiple different straightaways and having different cars that are so much faster on these straightaways. Trying to get that bop right is definitely hard, as Williams tries to go around the outside, makes a look for it, doesn't quite have it. Loses a little bit of time on that move, hoping to probably try to close it back up before they get to spoon to see if he can get another move on him. Looks like he won't quite have it.
No, it doesn't look like he's going to be close enough to do anything unless the Mercedes gets a little hairy on the exit here through spoon 2. It looks like it's going to stay nice and tidy.
If you could try to update your Discord stream one more time.
Certainly. Yeah, it looks like this may not be really working out too well on this end.
That is all right. We'll make it work. Let's see what we got. Darren Robichaud back in P30, looking like trying to make a move on Kyle Miller here. Got that gap closed right down as they come through spoon, and that hoping to put that Bentley power down. Now the Mustang is also a fast car down the straightaway, but that Bentley power down the straight, probably gonna try to hope to keep it close through 130R, and if he can keep it close enough through the chicane that he can get him on the straightaway. Those Bentleys, especially with the minus 20 kg BOP, should fly down these straightaways. I don't know if he's going to be close enough coming out of the chicane to make anything happen into turn 1.
Ooh, he's getting real close, though.
He might have a run here on him.
I don't know that he's going to be close enough.
Not
even
quite.
With the slipstream. That Mustang is strong in a straight.
As Darren Robichaud in the Bentley is flashing Kyle Miller. Trying to probably let him know he's there. You know, flashing doesn't always mean, hey, get out of my way. Sometimes it's a just a tactic of, honestly, distraction and just letting them know, hey, I'm here. It's kind of like putting your nose somewhere when you know you're not going to make a pass.
So we had a little bit going on back here, a little further up. Tight battle between Astudillo Battle and Dimmler. Looks like it just loosened up as we changed over, though. We do have a tight battle right here with Fisher, Foster, and Busterski. A couple of Porsches and a Ferrari.
Well, Ferrari pinned between two Porsches as Foster looks like he's got a good run on Fisher, or on, yeah, was that Lacey in the Ferrari, sorry.
That is Busterski.
Or Busterski making
Right
a run
behind.
on Foster, yes.
Yep. Ooh, as Brett Swift picks up a stop-go 30. I'm going to assume that's for pit lane speeding. It's a tricky one. This is a tricky pit entry here as well.
It is. You have to, Busterek gets a little sloppy through 130R there. Yeah, this pit entry, it's a tight right-hander out of the chicane, but your pit lane line isn't for quite a bit into the walls, but it's a tight entry, so trying to keep your speed up, loses a little bit of time, but without crossing that line at over 50 kph. It's definitely on the trickier side. Short pit lane, so if you get a drive-through, it's not as bad as somewhere, say, Spa or Indy, but definitely a tricky pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Indy is one that I really just don't love. And honestly, Red Bull Ring is one that's a little bit tough because you really want to try to push that last corner, but you just can't. Not without violating the pit entry line anyways.
Or hitting that grass and spinning.
Oh, yeah. It's...
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's easy to get it a little bit loose and miss it. And if you do cut the line a little bit, you got to hope it doesn't get picked up.
Henry Ramirez, for somebody asking in the chat, he's got the fastest lap right now at a 2:01.795, which is for a full fuel race pace. That is flying, as he has a almost 5-second gap on P2. He's just kind of in his own world here, just walking away from everybody, doing his own thing.
Well, and that is, looks like Moffat may, I don't know if maybe he's burned through his tires a little bit or if he just doesn't quite have the maximal race pace to match quali. But he has let Moorhead and Williams catch up to him. He's, you know, like you said, about 4.5, 5 seconds off of Ramirez. He's only about 1.5 seconds up on Moorhead now.
Which
and they
will make
were just under a second a moment ago, and Williams looks like he's going to make him look at a move around the outside. Is he going to get a switch back here?
Trying to cut up. He's going to have the outside here. Didn't quite get it. Got a little squirrely coming out of there.
Looks
but
like
coming into Moffitt here is going to make this battle between Moorhead and Williams very interesting. Now you're talking about Williams starting to look at the idea of if Moffitt gets stuck behind, if Moorhead gets stuck behind Moffitt and tries to make moves, that usually opens up a door for the second guy in the train, or the third guy in the train, to try to make that move. If, you know, say Moorhead tries to make a move on Moffitt that just doesn't work, that gives Williams a opportunity as he takes the inside here, coming into the hairpin. Right-hander into the hairpin. He's going to be on the outside of the hairpin, unfortunately. He's going to go for the undercut.
Oh, it looks like he's going to hit it.
Moorhead goes wide.
It's going to be a drag race down into Spoon now. Ooh, this is going to be tough.
Door to door, and
Moorhead
clipped that little bit of curb, and yep.
That's a sketchy curb to clip too,
yeah,
because that'll really bounce you in some nasty ways. Now, I was
very good move by Williams there.
Just about to bring up, at what point does Williams just say, look, I've got pace on him, but I can't quite make the move. I'm just going to go ahead and pit and just see if I can't get around him on the undercut.
Right. Yeah, we're coming into that window of we're going to start seeing some pits here. And honestly, I would have probably given him one more lap before I said, you know what, I think he's slowing my pace down. Let me pit and see if we can get the undercut and get back out in front of him. But Oh, as he cuts the chicane.
Ooh.
Something must have happened through there. That's going to give him for sure a at least one limit, depending on how many he has. Doesn't pick up
Well,
a drive-through yet, so
it'll depend, because if he didn't gain time,
that
he
is true.
might not get a numbered warning.
It looks like Moorhead dipped off into the pits. Finally got out of that battle with Williams and decided it's time for him to pit. Maybe he's going for the undercut here, try to get that spot back.
Could be. Could also just be, I don't know how the Merc is on tires here. And depending on how he has that car set up, especially because he was taking 130R a lot better than I've seen Mercs do it in the past.
Right.
I'm wondering if he was burning through his tires a little bit quickly. Especially while he was battling with Williams. That's going to put some extra wear and tear on him, trying to keep him behind.
And I would say that it seems as if Moorhead was holding Williams up a little bit, because after he got around Moorhead, he has closed the gap onto Moffitt right away, right onto the bumper of Moffitt here. And it seems as Williams got himself back into a battle again, trying to get around Moffitt here for that P2 spot.
Yep.
Does he stick with this fight, or does he do what you were talking about and say, you know what, why fight some more, burn through my tires when I could dip into the pits here and get out of this fight?
And that I don't know. I think if it's me in his position, I'm probably running this lap. And if I can't get around him into the next lap, then I'm probably going to go ahead and pit. If I can, then I might stretch it out one more lap, maybe two. But
right, because
I have the history of not making the best decisions. So
with Moorhead taking that pit, usually the guy that you're battling with, when they go into the pits, you want to put down at least one or two real heater of a laps to give yourself a little bit of a cushion. But with Moffitt in front of him here,
and Moffitt dies
there goes
off.
Moffitt into the pit. So that gives him that room. So Williams' mindset right now, if I was him, is put down an absolute heater if I can before I dive off into the pits.
One or two. And you said you're a McLaren maniac, so you can tell me better than I would know. How is the McLaren on cold tires? Is it pretty agreeable, or is it maybe a little bit sketchy?
No, for the most part, it's you can kind of push pretty good on the on cold tires when you come out on your out lap.
Okay.
What's one good thing about the McLaren is it's always been good on tires all around. Cold tires, long stints. As long as you're driving it correctly, tires, you're not looking with any issues like you are with other cars. Seems as if Rimzik went off the track, and luckily spun off the track right in the chicane, so decided to dip off into the pits.
Not a bad move.
As we're seeing a lot of cars start to filter into the pits here.
Yeah.
As we're coming into that about two minutes shy of the halfway mark.
I am curious to see what the Porsches do. And I know I keep coming back to the Porsches. It's one of my favorite cars around here. A ton of fun. Tends to float very gracefully around the corners. But the
Great
one thing that I
here.
remember from the Porsche in my time driving it was that it had this weird wall between 25 and 35 minutes into a stint where the grip just kind of fell off, and then it would come back afterwards. I don't know that that's still the case. But that always kind of makes me a little curious as to what these drivers are going to do. Whether they're just going to pit at the 30-minute window, if that's still even an issue, or a nuance of the 992, however you want to phrase that. Or if they try to stick it out to the end of it so they don't have to deal with that in the closing stages of the race.
We got as we watch this Porsche battle here between Usteric and Stephanie Fisher. Gotta say, Stephanie Fisher's livery is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
They come into 130R, and Borshchik looks to the inside and 130R onside. Stephanie Fisher decides to give it up. We'll see if they decide to keep going around here or when they want to dip into the pits.
Yeah, that is such a great livery, and we can see it on another car on track with Thomas Greer. See if we can track him down as well. He's currently sitting P35, not really in the middle of any battles.
Matt Mellinson in the chat, unfortunate situation. Game kept lagging and had to leave the race. Definitely not how you want to start your first race. Luckily, you get a drop race, but as we were saying earlier, you don't want your drop race to be the first, but I wouldn't be too hard on yourself or worried about it. You're just going to use this as your drop race, and you need to kind of show up and perform for the rest of the 7.
Yeah, but it's always a little bit more gutting when it's a technical issue than driver error, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
It's
It's something
like, man, I
you
didn't even
can't
get a
do.
choice in this.
Yep. And to Mickey Rooney, or sorry, Travis Robinson. No, who asked about it? Yeah, Mickey Rooney, Giordano. Yes, he is recovering. He made it back quite a bit of spots before he dipped off into the pits. So he's making a good recovery for himself. I know he's probably hating his life after that spin in the hairpin right on first lap, but field's breaking up here a little bit as people are filtering in and out of the pits. Ramirez still hasn't gone in yet, as he takes another lap around now.
Ramirez pushing that a little bit late, although we're just past the 30-minute mark, so I guess not too bad.
Now we're looking for where Moorhead's gonna come out at. He's coming around the hairpin right now. It seemed as if he had an ideal pit time of 1 minute and 8 seconds. About 1 minute and 6, minute 7 is your ideal pit window here. So he was right on that. So he should be getting his positions back pretty well as long as he holds it together when everyone else pits.
And Moorhead actually sitting with the current fastest lap of the race at a 2:01.6.
That's very impressive coming out on. I mean, he's only been out here for what, 2 laps after his pit.
Yeah, fresh tires will really help you out, especially now that you're down to about a half fuel load.
And Moorhead's not he's not worried about holding off Williams anymore. You know, that battle with Williams was probably throwing him off a little bit. So now he's got some free space to kind of open this car up and put down a fast lap.
Yep, as he jumps a handful of folks here in the pits. He's going to find himself back up to P9 already.
Sick.
And P2 of those who have already taken their pit stop. Pit stops, of course, here in the GT3 Team Series are 1 mandatory per race, and it is no fueling allowed, so you do have to start with your full fuel load. You do have to take tires at your pit stop as well. So it does give us, what is it, a 25-second stationary if you hit it perfectly?
Yep. Scott Johnson in a little bit of a battle here. Looks like he's chasing down Hassam Rimzik. And Rimzik right behind Rosenthal as we got ourselves a little 3-way battle for 2021 and 22.
A couple of battles going on track right now. We've got this one that you're just mentioning with Rosenthal, Rimsk, and Johnston, all within about a second of each other, though mostly right now this is between Rimsk and Johnson, a pair of McLarens. And then we've got another similar battle forming up behind Garrity with Landon P. and Eric Rudderham in the Audi, who's recovered a little bit, trying to fight his way back up.
Yeah, we watched Eric Rudderham's unfortunate situation into the getting spun into the chicane of Casio Triangle. So he's just trying to get some of those spots back and, you know, get whatever finish he can out of this race with a livery of Rudderham Garage Doors. Cool to see a actual real life livery or a sponsor of his own, I believe.
Absolutely. Let's see, looks like Rimsk and Johnson are still battling, each of them about half a second off of each other. And it looks like Giordano has actually joined the battle with Fisher and Kevin Johnston. As it looks like Landon tries to make a move around the outside through the Casio Triangle, it can't quite make it stick. Looks like he's got a little bit of a run coming into turn 1. See if he maybe has a cheeky look inside. He glances. Looks like he tries to scare Garrity just a little bit. Can't quite get the move done yet.
Like we were saying, this is one of those tracks, not necessarily hard to pass on like some of the smaller British tracks, but hard to pass on in the terms of this is kind of a higher speed track. Lots of long straights, lots of fast corners. So if you're side by side, you really got to trust the driver next to you and that they can keep their car together.
Absolutely.
And, making passes here, you got to kind of make some riskier moves if you want to get the pass.
Looks like Wusterski completed his pit stop alongside Fisher.
Ramirez is in the pits now, your race leader.
And he's got Giordano and Johnston right on his tail, and they are putting a lot of pressure on him. Have to see, it looks like he split up that battle between Giordano and Fisher. And Kevin Johnson actually in the Mercedes right behind. P24 currently sitting with the fastest lap of the race at a 2:01.3. Of course, set on fresh tires here in his second stint.
Awesome. It's crazy to see the one Mercedes driver gets fastest lap, and then his teammate in another Mercedes takes away fastest lap at Suzuka is just a wild statement to be making.
Absolutely it is. I don't want to turn away from this battle quite yet, but I do want to check in with Sean Williams, who has taken the lead over from Ramirez, who went ahead and took his pit stop.
Williams still needed to get his pit out of the way as Robert Moorhead takes that fastest lap back from his teammate with a 2:01.0.
Man, these are goofy
Got
times.
two great drivers in these Mercedes, I gotta say, for this track.
And we've got Landon, looks like he's gonna, he tries to make a move and gets a slight bump on the inside. Don't know if he's gonna be able to hold that. He spins it, unfortunately.
Yep.
That's the
that
kind
gets
of,
that gets Rudderham in front of Garrity as well.
It certainly does. Rudderham picking up a couple of spots. He is certainly going to be grateful for that not happening to him. But Landon coming out of that for the worse. Unfortunately, that's the kind of bold move that Suzuka really encourages. You almost have to go for those really daring passes, and like you were just saying, you got to trust the guy next to you and really just hope and pray that everything's going to come out okay. Because unfortunately, the nature of sim racing is even if you both do everything perfectly and you don't mess it up, sometimes things like netcode can happen and just send you into the shadow realm.
And for the viewers out there who aren't racing, the sun here has been setting most of the track for the majority of this first stint. Coming into a lot of these corners have been almost blind with the sun coming down right into your eyes, making it difficult. But as of right now, it's looking like the sun's starting to set over top of the trees and kind of giving visual back to most of the track. So at least that I've seen a lot of the racing here, moves will start getting done a little bit more. We had something interesting just happen. Ramirez just went off track and is in the wall right now, going to the straightaway. He looks like he had he had an issue with a technical issue. He was right there with Moffitt, bumper to bumper with Moffitt, and it looked like he just turned into the wall. I'm assuming some sort of technical issue with his wheel.
Oh, you hate to see that because he was in a position to re-inherit the lead, I believe.
That was your race leader, and he's still in the wall. He had some sort of technical issues. Hate to see that from the race leader trying to get spot back after the pit, which he would have once Williams dipped off into the pits, but it seems as if that's all gone away. So now at this point, Williams needs to get his pit done, and hopefully he has a good pit, and he's looking at holding the lead, I believe.
He's currently looking at a 63-ish second gap. What's our average pit time that we've been seeing here? Is about the 104 mark.
Minute and 8 seconds, yeah. Minute 6 is your like ideal time.
Moffat just might come out really heavily advantaged in this.
Yeah.
Because he's currently sitting about 62, 63 seconds back. If he can get Williams here in the closing stages of the race when he pits, and just inherit a lead of even 3 or 4 seconds. That would be huge.
This would, yeah, that's at this point. I mean, we saw earlier in the beginning of the race, it seemed as if Williams had pace over Moffitt. It seemed as if Moffitt was slowing him down when he got through that gap after he finally got around Moorhead. He closed the gap up to
It did, but it looked like as soon
as
as he got around Moffat when he dove into the pits, it didn't look like that gap to Ramirez dropped below about 5 seconds. It looks like Ramirez held it right there. I don't know if maybe he picked up the pace because he saw the position change. As Johnston looks like he gets around Busterski through Spoon 2, and there's a little bit of contact there, nose to tail. And he is going off towards the inside there, and he's going to swing back over to the outside, knowing that he's totally clear. Holds it nice and tidy through 130R. Looks like that Porsche is still getting loose on the exit there.
Dive on the chicane on Boost Eric. Doesn't get it to stick, though. Giordano really trying to just fight back from, I mean, he's gained a lot. He was in 34th after his spin. He's all the way up to P23. So he's gained himself a lot of spots here.
Williams comes into the pits.
Williams going for another lap here, whereas we're sub 20 minutes left in the race.
He hasn't forgotten that he needs to pit, right?
Like I said, the McLaren's very good on tires. You can make these tires last quite a while, but he's starting to push it now, I believe.
I get it, but his last lap was a 2:02.1, best lap of a 2:01.9, so his pace hasn't really fallen off. But I've got to think with some fresh tires, he might be starting to look at least into the mid 2:01s, which might give him a fighting chance against Moffat.
And if he runs this time down too long, he's shortening up his, post pit time to actually close that gap up with Moffitt. Now he doesn't, from his point of view, he doesn't know where he's sitting in terms of position to Moffitt, I believe. How far? He should be able to see his gap of 102 here. So yeah, it seems to him he needs to get into the pit so he can have as much time as possible to try to close that gap back up. If he waits too long, he's only going to have a few laps to actually try to get back up to Moffitt here.
Yeah, I'm thinking he needs to go ahead and pit as soon as he can this lap around, because he looks like he's lost about 2 seconds this lap. Every lap he waits, he is shooting himself in the foot again.
And you talk about, fresh tires, and we're starting to run down on fuel. So, like you said, if he gets some fresh tires in there, he's going to be running some quick pace. So if he can get in here this lap.
As we watch, looks like that was Mertzen. Yeah, Mertzen just loses the back end through 130R in the 296. He was sitting right behind. Looks like might have been Griswold. Just loses
Williams
the back
dives
end.
off into the pit.
Good. He needs to.
We got a good battle going here in P9, P10, and P8 with Eric Rutterham, Stefan Buckley, and Ryan Garrity. As Ryan Garrity's was looking for a move on the inside of Buckley, but decided to pull out of it.
Yeah,
and right behind them, Demler's all over Tenny in that Lamborghini.
Yeah, Lexus is a tough one to get around here. It's kind of like the Mustang, where it has a ton of straight line speed, and that rear end is one that kind of floats around right where it needs to. But it looks like Buckley is going to go wide. I don't know if that's just to try and disturb any sort of slipstream and deter any kind of move from Garrity and set him up for the inside.
If he can get a good exit here, he should be able to outrun that Ferrari down the straight here.
100%. Even with the slipstream, I don't think that 296 is going to be able to keep up on the straights. As Garrity goes wide through 130R there.
Oh, I was just watching Darren Robichaud trying to make a move on Kyle Miller, but lost it into the grass. Luckily, didn't get in the wall and kept it on track, but lost a lot of time to him as Fisher is trying to look at a move on Johnston through 130R. Doesn't have it.
Yep, flicking over to that right now. Got a tight little 5-way battle going here from P17 to P21.
Johnston, Fisher, Johnston.
Yeah, I think there's 3 Johnstons in D4 this season.
We got Scott Johnston, followed by Stephanie Fisher, and then JP Johnston and Kevin Johnston, all stacked up on each other.
Yeah. Saw some folks in the D4 chat were joking about that earlier today, saying that the admins must not like it, must not like those of us running this D4 stream if they're putting 4 Johnstons together. Keeping an eye on the timing. It's like Buckley is staying right there with Rudderham. Garrity's staying close, but not quite there.
It seems as if when Williams came out of the pit, Moorhead is also in front of him.
Ooh, and so the plot thickens.
Yes, and then Moorhead's got a 3-second gap, or almost a 4-second gap on Williams here, and Moffitt's got a 1.5-second gap on Moorhead even, so I'm not sure what Williams was trying to achieve, but I don't think the strategy that he was going for worked out in his favor, as he's got pressure also from Kyle Cumber right behind him as well. So
yeah, this requirement with the 1 mandatory stop. Oh, as there's contact between Fisher and who was that? That was Scott Johnston.
Scott Johnston, Stephanie Fisher.
Through spoon 1. Fisher was just inside and just ever so lightly touched that rear quarter panel of Johnston's McLaren, sent them both spinning.
Drops back quite a few spots. That pushes Giordano up into P20 here.
Buckley is right on Rudderham, trying to make this move around him, or I guess in this case maybe reclaim the position.
Right. A lot of really close battling this race. So just as he messes up a little bit, and it looks like Ryan Garrity is going to get that spot from Stefan Buckley.
Man,
got a little slippery through the S's there and lost the spot to Garrity.
Yeah, and as the sunsets and we lose the sun on the racing surface, we're going to see some of these at this point most of the tracks start cooling off even more than the temps might suggest, and you're going to see the group really start falling away here in the last 15 minutes of the race, and you're just not going to be able to push quite as hard as you were earlier in the race for some of these car drivers. And hey, maybe that, speculation, but maybe that's what Williams was trying to account for with the cooler temps and just seeing exactly how much he needed to bump the pressures.
Right. Yeah, trying to make an adjustment, very late minute adjustment.
Yeah, I still think as much as this strategy with the 1 mandatory stop and mandatory tires does promote some great racing, it does really kind of put everyone onto a very, very similar strategy, where you kind of have to stop somewhere around the 30-minute mark.
That halfway mark.
33 to 27, maybe 35 to 25, somewhere in that window.
Yeah, unless you know your car can hold tires for a while and you can go for a pretty heavy undercut. That's really your only other option.
Yeah, but there are so few cars that can do that. I know, the Bentley can do it, but really only certain tracks. It's going to be the tracks where the temps aren't too egregious, and really the more BOP help it has with rate reduction, the better. 'Cause that really does help it get the most out of some tires, although I will say I have managed to fully double stint a set of tires at Red Bull Ring in that car. So
the Darren Robichaud is trying to do something here with Kyle Miller.
Yeah, he's just not quite close enough to make it work, and it looks like Griswold's closing up rapidly on Johnston here. Johnston may lose another position here going into turn 1. Looks like he may hold it for now.
As Foster is trying to join that battle as well, and
Yes, he is. Griswold backs out, decides it's not worth it to risk it right now, 10 minutes left. But he is closed up on the back, and he is going to be looking to make a move when the opportunity presents itself. And it looks like Foster's going to be in that, throwing his name into the hat as well. And Robichaud really closing up on the back. of Miller
really wanting that pass on Miller. Now, anybody in the chat from last season, correct me if I was wrong, but I believe Robichaud and Miller were teammates last season, but I may be incorrect on that.
I thought Robichaud Matissey had been. I know
That's what it was.
I've seen them be teammates 2 or 3 other seasons.
Yep, that's what it was.
Okay. And Lacey's just looming back there. He's waiting for these two to make a mistake, and if they get tangled up in something, lose a little bit of time, he is right there ready to capitalize.
Yeah, that's another strategy you can have out here is if you see a tight battle happening in front of you, just kind of sit back, stick with them. But if they, you know, unfortunately come together, that gives you 2 spots. Or if the guy in front or somebody goes for a move, it's going to slow one of them up and you might be able to gain 1 position. So from Lacey's point of view here, I'm sitting back, I'm watching, waiting to see what happens. Yeah. And see if I can capitalize on what they have going on.
Now Lacey does have almost 10 seconds, 9 seconds anyways, behind him. So even if there was a little incident, he wouldn't stand to lose too much, and it's another 15 seconds behind that. So we could see him start eyeballing a little bit bolder move, especially if Robichaud isn't able to make a pass stick on Miller here.
And we're down into the sub 10 minutes left in the race. Usually this is when things start to get a little interesting here, as you know, you're running out of time to make something happen. You kind of start having to force something to happen, so we'll start seeing some more interesting things here as Williams is 0.4 seconds off the back of Moorhead here. Closed that gap up quite a bit for that P2 spot. Has pace on Moorhead, it seems, but does he have enough time to make a move happen?
Well, if I remember right, this was the battle we saw in the first half of the race as well.
Yep, exactly. It was Williams and Moorhead for quite a while.
Williams will have fresher tires by quite a fair margin, but I just don't know because it seems like the Merc has so much of a straight line advantage. I just don't know that he's going to be able to make up enough and essentially force a mistake with just about 7.5 minutes left.
I think as long as Moffitt can hold it together, he's definitely comfortable here, but they have closed that gap up on him. This P1 through P3 is as he goes for the inside, going for the outside again on Moorhead and makes the pass stick on Moorhead.
Yep.
Great move by Williams through the S's there.
A little surprised Moorhead didn't try to make that too wide, but they don't have a huge gap to a couple of spots behind. He may have said, a podium's a podium.
Yep, no need to risk it. You would. The question comes in, like you were just saying there, especially through the S's, how much did those fresh tires help out Williams there? Where it was Moorhead, you know, kind of struggling to find grip through those S's, where Moorhead had quite a bit more with those much fresher tires. As now next in sight for Williams is that race lead of Moffitt. He's got it closed up to a 1.5 with only 6 minutes and 45 seconds left in the race.
He might yet
Does he have enough pace?
Yeah, he might yet pull this off. But keep in mind, Moorhead, I was kind of expecting to be a little bit off pace through the S's anyways, just because it seemed like that's where Sean Williams was really closing up on him in the first half of the race anyways. So essentially that through the S's and then into Spoon. As long as Moorhead could have kept him behind, he was okay, but it looks like with the fresher tires, there's a little bit more of an advantage, and Moorhead may be getting tired, and Sean may have a little bit better endurance on this too, just on the mental side. You know,
right.
Hard to say.
Speaking of mental side here, God, being Moffitt, you're in a tricky spot here. You're getting a little nervous seeing Williams now making that move on Moorhead so easily, and have that gap close up to 1.5. You see him in your rearview mirror. You got 5 minutes and 40 seconds left in the race. You're just, are you pushing here? Are you trying to get fast laps and risking messing up? Or are you just trying to hold those 5 minutes off and hope that when he gets up on your bumper, you can defend good enough to keep him behind?
Yep, and it looks like we're watching Music get around Cumber going into T1, coming out of T2. But yeah,
Great pass there.
Moffat's going to be in a tough position, and he's going to really start seeing Williams close up on him. He's already taken about 4/10 off since the start of the last, almost half a second. Williams is in with a real fighting chance. Didn't necessarily expect to see that after the pit stop. Those fresh tires do help, and again, one of the things I mentioned towards the start of the race is I just don't know what the tire degradation looks like on the forwards. I don't know how much Moffat is really struggling right now. He could be A-okay, or he could really be hurt.
I've always heard the Mustang degradation is pretty bad. They burn through the rears pretty aggressively. Now at this point it's going to come down to how well can Moffitt defend. Williams is on that bumper now.
Yeah.
And we saw in the beginning of the race, Williams and Moffitt did battle for a little bit there when they were in P2, P3, and Williams seemed to have pace on Moffitt a little bit. So I mean, a weird strategy call by Williams, but luckily he was able to make up the bad strategy call with just pure pace.
Yeah, now the tough part for him is going to be that he just doesn't have any sort of a straight line response to the Mustang.
No, not at all.
It's going to have to happen in the corners, and he has to make up enough time through a complex in order to have a fighting chance here.
I mean, you're talking the Mustang, one of the fastest top speeds in the game, against the McLaren, which is on the bottom end of straight line speed. So, yeah, like you said, he's going to have to really be making up some time with those fresh tires. And I would assume Williams is just hoping that Moffitt has burned through his tires, and him being on fresher tires he's going to be able to make some moves here in the S's, maybe the hairpin, before another straightaway.
Yes, man, he is really closing up. We're watching on the back wing of Moffat right now, and he's just trying to hold on. But I don't know that he's going to be able to. This is a tough one.
Williams very good to those S's.
Absolutely he is. I'm hesitant to turn away, but I think we're going to have to.
Oh, Williams gets a little bit of the grass there.
Oh.
As that opens the gap up to another 1.5 seconds for Moffitt there. That's going to give him some breathing room.
And with just 3 minutes left, he needs every little breath he can get.
On LP all over the back of Demler.
Yeah, they were side by side for just a moment there.
Griswold going for a move on Foster, and Foster going for a move on Johnston, coming into turn one. We got a lot of close battles, just bumper to bumper throughout the entire field here.
There's still a good battle going on here with Miller, Robichaud, and Lacey. And Williams already closed up that gap again. Down under a second. Won't have anything
Coming
for him
down
here, but he'll probably close up going into the Casio triangle.
Thinking probably 2 laps left in this race about.
Yep, they'll finish up this lap and get one more.
I'm not sure. Are they going to get a white flag on this lap, or are they going to get another one?
I mean, I think they've got to. We're under 2 minutes remaining. It's got to be a white flag lap, right?
You would think so. The white flag is out. This is the last lap. This is all or nothing for Williams here. Got to make something happen if he wants that P1 spot.
And looks like Williams is actually nabbed fastest lap of the race with a 2:06.52. Just nabbing it out. Actually, more than just nabbing out. He's the only sub 2:01.
Yep.
No, Ramirez had a 2:07. Take that back. So one of only two, but it looks like Ramirez is out.
Foster going for a move on Johnson into 130R. Can't make it stick. JP Johnston going for a move on Rimsick coming into turn one here. Going on the outside. as they come together. They come together again.
No.
Oh, into the wall. That's going to be an end of a race for JP Johnson. Rimzik able to hold it out of the wall, but spun.
Yeah, that Mustang is toast.
Unfortunately, that's what you start to see at the end of the race here. People going for the riskier stuff there. Came together and bounced off and went back out as Williams on the back bumper of Moffitt here coming into through the spoon. Exiting out of spoon, Moffitt will have a little bit of a better run here in that Mustang. Let's hope they can keep it together and Williams doesn't do anything too risky through the chicane.
Looks like Williams doing a little bit of flashing there for a moment. Just trying to get in his head. Moffat saying...
Moffitt goes a little wide. As Williams comes around the outside, going for the under. Won't quite have it, and that Mustang should be able to outrun him to the finish for Justin Moffitt to take the D4 Season 13 Race 1 win. Followed closely by Williams, and then Rob Moorhead in P3. Great race for Williams.
Great race for Williams and a great display from Moffat. Certainly,
yeah,
you know, pulled a win, but that does not tell the whole story by any means. Certainly not a race without its share of adversity for him.
Kyle Cumber across the line to round out your top 5.
You're going to hop back in with Rimsk here towards the back end. He's getting probably... He's not going to be very happy about
not at all
about how that all played out, but he is in a 4-way battle now. Holding on to P20 currently.
Eric Rutterham rounds out your top 10. Got cars all over his rear bumper here trying to hold on to that P20 spot. Foster looking for a move here. Probably won't have it. As long as he can keep it clean through here. Might have a run on him here with Rimzik having a lot of damage on that McLaren. Good defensive move by Rimzik there. Doesn't quite have it. That'll be a P20 for Rimzik. Foster P21, Griswold P22, and Stephanie Fisher P23. Lacey not able to make the move on Roboshot as they come across the line P25 and P26.
Looks like Anselm will be among the last ones to cross the finish line. Becoming
Rounding
home
out.
around P28.
Man, what a race. What a race by Sean Williams there. Just showed incredible pace, to be honest. Interesting strategy call for the pit stop time. Moffitt coming out in front of him a little bit because of that strategy, able to hold on to it to finish off, but had to fight to hold on to it. Just a really good battle there. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have seen what Henry Ramirez could have done in that situation, as Henry Ramirez actually crosses the line just now. Did finish the race, actually. Good for him. Decided after all that issue, he's going to go back out and finish the race out.
Yep, absolutely. It's always heartbreaking when you have some sort of a technical issue. I remember my first season in SRA, I was racing VR exclusively, and unfortunately ACC and VR are not the best combo. Really immersive,
No.
but unfortunately it's not a seamless experience, and certainly was rife with its own small issues here and there.
I'm going to see if once they start populating this D4 chat here, if we can pull a couple of them up for little interviews. See if we can get Moorhead up here first, if he's in there. I don't see him yet. Sean Williams is in there. See if we can pull Sean Williams up for a quick interview here. Where are we? YouTube. Sean Williams, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Welcome to the D4 commentating booth. Great job on the P2 finish there. had yourself a heck of a race. We were just talking, saying you were showing great pace out there. We do have a question for you on the pit stop strategy call. The super late pit stop strategy, was that a planned strategy, or what was the choice there with that late pit?
Yeah, I would say it wasn't anything that was truly planned out or strategic. But regardless, I felt like my pace was good enough, and so I thought I'd rather be in clean air than be caught in some traffic. And obviously went into pit and came right out behind everyone, or not everyone, but a couple of cars I had passed already. So I was like, well, that was the wrong strategy. But regardless, live and learn.
Well, so you came out behind some cars that you already had moves on. It was an unfortunate timing. You got that move done on the Mercedes of, I can't remember who it was, but you made the move on him pretty easily through the S's, and then closed that gap up to Moffitt there pretty quickly. Your pace was great out there. We had a question about the McLaren tires. How well did those tires hold up for you for that long stint in the beginning?
They held up pretty well. I did have to adjust traction control towards the end of that first stint just to keep from, oversteer on power exit. But I was surprised. I didn't think they would last that long. And I just felt like the pace was okay. And then Classic had an off somewhere, lost a full second, and just said, "All right, well, that's it. Let's throw in the towel. Let's go in for new tires." So.
Well, I mean, you weren't able to make the move for P1. You were right there, and it seemed like, that somewhere around the hairpin, you kind of had a little bit of an incident in the grass, which threw that run off for you, unfortunately. But great run, great pace out there. It was awesome to watch. We were worried about you out there for a minute, thinking, oh, he's gonna lose so many spots, and then all of a sudden you just started putting it back and putting the work back in. Great job on the P2. We got Watkins Glen coming up next. How do you feel about that track? Like it, love it, feel good at it, excited about it? How do you feel?
I love it. Very excited about it. My favorite track. Part of the Group Champion Motorsports, and we've even had real live track days there with our own cars. So I'm stoked for it, coming with the P2 finish going into it. So very excited. One shout out. I hit someone, I think on lap 3. I'll go back and watch the replay. So apologies. Is definitely going to be a penalty, but regardless, pretty surprised how clean our group's driving was, considering everything we had heard from the higher divisions. So, shout out to the full D4 crew, because it seemed pretty clean. I didn't see too many yellows out there, too many wrecked cars.
No, there were a couple of smaller incidents, but overall the group kept it clean. But certainly it makes it a lot easier when you're out front.
Always. Got anything else for him?
No, I think that's it. Is there so obviously you're looking forward to Watkins. Is there any other tracks that you aren't looking forward to?
I mean, there's some that I'm not looking forward to. Maybe hold those cards to the chest, but totally realize I'm giving myself the commentator's curse by calling out Watkins Glen as like a premium track for me. So I'm sure I'll see the back of the field next week, and pull it.
You say that, but based on what we saw today, I don't know that you're going to be seeing the back. Well, at least not until you're coming around.
We'll see. But thank you guys for thank you guys for doing the broadcast. It's always fun to watch it back, and just to kind of relive the race. It's always a blast. Very appreciated.
Absolutely. Of course.
Good luck tomorrow. Good luck next week. Can't wait to see you out there again.
Awesome. Thank you, boys.
All right, that was your P2 of Sean. I forgot his name already. Our winner is
Sean Williams.
Sean Williams. Wow, gosh, I couldn't think of that. Our winner is not in there. We had P3 of Rob Moorhead, correct?
Yes.
I'm gonna pull him up, and then we'll call it good, because our winner is not able to be pulled up here.
Does look like he's got himself muted, so we'll have to see if we can get him.
We're gonna unmute him. They don't have a choice. You podium, you interview. Rob Moorhead, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there you go. P3 today, great job. In the Mercedes of all cars around Suzuka is one of the things we were talking about a lot today. Seemed like you and your teammate were really making those Mercedes do something they shouldn't be doing around Suzuka, and that's go fast. So great driving there.
Appreciate
P3, how were you your second stint when you came back out? We know we were talking to Sean Williams a minute ago about his late pit coming out behind you and Moffitt.
That guy's nuts.
then-
I don't know how he lasted 40 minutes. I'm sorry, but finish your
That's what
question.
he said he had to bump his TC up quite a bit, but you're the Mercedes around this track. How was the tire wear? Did you seem like you were starting to kind of lose the tires a little bit towards the end there, or how'd that last for you?
Honestly, in the second stint, my tires came alive pretty quick out of the pits. I was setting pretty good pace with like 1 or 2 laps of warm up on it, and then by the end, just I did not have much for tires at all. I bumped the TC up a little bit, and it was just tough to take kind of the sweeping turns. I don't know how many times I messed up Spoon in the last 20 minutes. It was horrendous,
Well,
but just enough to make it by.
Well, and so Spoon's a tricky one in that car. I am curious, though, when we saw Williams get around you, what was your thought process there? Did you just make a move and you said, not worth it? Or...
I mean, yeah, I saw he in the second stint, he just had insane pace, and I made a mistake, I think, out of turn 2. And I knew as soon as I had made that mistake, he just got me on I think it was the outside going to the inside to turn 3, and said, forget it. Maybe if he can catch up to P1 and they can fight it out, maybe I can snatch a win at the end. But there was just no way I'd be able to keep behind me.
Gotcha.
Well, next week you got Watkins Glen. How do you feel about that track? Are you looking forward to it? You feel comfortable at it?
It's not one I've historically been good at, and this is my first season in the Merc, so I don't know what to expect in the Merc on that track. But yeah, as always, the name of the game is just surviving here. So if I can survive, hopefully I can put up a similar performance, but it's going to take a ton of practice.
Well, I can't wait to see you next week and see what you can do with that Merc around Watkins Glen, because you made that Merc fly around Suzuka, and that's hard to do. So looking forward to next week.
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the commentary. Have a good night.
I do want to pull up one more person real quick, and that's Henry Ramirez. I want to find out what happened to him.
Sounds good. I'm curious to know as well. And I'm sure all of our viewers back home.
Henry Ramirez.
Huh? What?
Hey, you were up in the D4 booth.
Oh, you.
I stole you.
I was like, what? I heard everybody. What the heck happened?
We all want to know what happened.
Man, I got a fatal error. Fatal error, crash 96, something like that. I forget what it was, but as soon as it happened, the game froze over. I knew I forget who the guy was that was behind me, Moorhead or Muffet or something, Mofet. Sorry if I'm messing up your name, buddy. Sorry, I'm butchering it, but I know I had him behind me. He was pretty close, and I could still feel like the force feedback in my steering wheel. So all I did was just turn left because I knew the wall was there, because I didn't want to like make anybody get like messed up. So like I inched it closer to the wall. Once I felt the wall, then I hit the brakes, kept leaning the steering wheel to the left and just hitting the brakes so I wouldn't like hit anybody. So that's it. It was just a fatal crash.
It was heartbreaking to see on our end, because I mean, man, you were flying out there, and we were just talking to, I believe, your teammate in the other Mercedes. Oh, you battles your teammate?
Yeah, Jake Battle's my teammate.
Is he also running a Mercedes?
No, he's running a Mustang.
Oh, okay. We figured that or not Moffitt. Moorhead was your. Who were we just talking to? I'm so confused. I confuse myself with names.
Moorhead and Moorhead and
yes,
one of the Johnstons.
Gotcha. The other Mercedes we figured was your teammate, but either way, man, you were making that Mercedes fly around the track. No, Mustang. You're Mustang. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yes, you were flying. You had a huge lead. And it looked like you were about to have yourself a good race. So we were heartbroken to have seen that unfortunate situation. Probably going to be your throwaway race.
Nah, I don't know. I mean, I tried to come back in because like I figured maybe I was like far enough ahead that maybe I can get up into like the 20 positions or something like that. But I came back in and think I was like in 34th or something. I finished 34th, but I figured, you know what, let's just try to get the fast lap. If I can't get the win, I'll get the fast lap. And like at the final laps, I ran into some traffic. I was about to get it, and then I messed up into the hairpin, and I was like, no, my one shot at dignity, my one shot at redemption.
Well, you got another shot next week at Watkins Glen. How do you feel about that track?
I love that track. I love that track. That is my favorite freaking track. And I did an endurance there not too long ago. So I'm hoping I could pull something out of the bag and hopefully like at least do something with the computer to like refresh it or something. I don't know. I'm really upset that.
Was that the 2-hour endurance of Watkins Glen?
No, it was somewhere else. I think it was like 6 or 9 hours or something. I forget.
Gotcha.
But
well, looking forward to seeing if you could have yourself a little redemption run at Watkins Glen. Really looking forward to a full race from you and seeing what you can do.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I'm just it's so upsetting. But I just want to say thank you to you guys too for broadcasting too, because I know how hard it is. I broadcasted yesterday, so like thank you guys for everything that you guys do. It does not go unnoticed, and we love you guys for streaming and doing everything that you guys do.
Well, we love you guys for being out there on track for us, giving us all the entertainment.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, good luck next week, and looking forward to seeing what you can do.
Thanks, buddy. You guys have a good one.
You too.
All right. I think that'll just about do it for us.
I think so. Any closing thoughts? Certainly it was quite a few good battles and some heartbreak on there, unfortunately. Both on track and I guess on the back end tech side.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of good stories made already so far just in round one between, technical difficulties of a really fast driver, interesting strategy calls, and interesting turn of events that I was not expecting. But then even back of the field, mid-pack all the way to the back of the field, really good racing, very clean for the most part. Some instances in the beginning and here and there, but for the most part, pretty clean racing. And then through the whole field, pretty much like I expected with all the people coming back from last season in this division, just really close racing the whole time. So definitely a good first round. Excited to see what we can cook up next week.
Absolutely. Watkins is another track that promotes a ton of great racing. It's always a fun one. Like you said, it's your one of your favorites, and certainly it's one of mine. So I think next week will be some even better racing. I think everyone will work out some of their first round nerves and be a little bit more calm, a little bit more ready.
Thank you to everybody in the chat who was watching tonight, who stuck with us the whole time. Anybody who was talking in the chat, thank you to you guys. Hopefully you all be back next week to watch your favorite D4 drivers go around again.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Ryan, I think it's time we go ahead and wrap this one up. It's been great hanging out with you. Great watching some racing. And I think let's go back and get ready to do this again next week.
Absolutely.